Whenever you see this man around you or this man doing anything around you, there's no way you can actually expect a place to be quiet, tranquil, or peaceful in any way. Yes, I am talking about the world's greatest secret agent, the most suave, the most handsome, and the most violent spy of all time. That is James Bond, of course. It's no surprise that the James Bond franchise has been running for the past 6 decades with almost 6 different actors playing the character in 6 different decades. We first had Sean Connery take on the role, then followed by George Lazenby, then Roger Moore, then it was Timothy Dalton, then it was Pierce Brosnan, and finally Daniel Craig played the role up until 2021 with the movie No Time to Die. It's no surprise that the Bond film series is absolutely famous for a lot of things: the locales, the Bond girls, the cars, the gadgets, the action sequences, the ending, and of course, Bond's flirting skills. That's something that I would really like to talk upon some other day. The Bond movies have been very successful at the box office and are at the 25th number of movies now. Can you imagine 25 movies in the last 60 years? That's not a goddamn joke, I mean. Every actor has at least given 5 or 6 movies on an average, with the only exceptions of Timothy Dalton and George Lazenby, who have just given 2 movies and 1 movie respectively. Today, John Matthew, want to actually talk about these movies and tell you why these movies are so cool, and I'll rank some of the best James Bond movies of all time. So sit tight, guys, and make sure you have your vodka martini shaken, not stirred, and let's go on a wild ride containing all kinds of Bond girls, Bond cars, Bond gadgets, and even some Bond plots as well. Yes. Let's go, guys, and see you soon. Number 10 on my list here I have is The Spy Who Loved Me, which is one of the many likable Roger Moore Bond movies. This is the film that has a great cast, a great Bond girl. The sequences with the Lotus Esprit are very iconic. The ending of the film, and of course the entire idea with the Bond girl actually being a strong character, is what really gets me every time. This is one of the many Roger Moore Bond movies that you can actually like, and this is one of the many times when you see Roger Moore actually being a sensible Bond. So this was on number 10 for me, with Roger Moore's The Spy Who Loved Me. We'll get into the next one very soon. Number 9 on my list here I have is perhaps the most underrated Bond movie of all time, License to Kill. Yes, this is one of the many Bond movies that actually never gets the recognition and appreciation for what it deserves. A movie that stars Timothy Dalton in his final James Bond role. It stars Dalton basically going on a personal vendetta and trying to take revenge from Sanchez, who was responsible for maiming his friend Felix and also sabotaging Felix's wedding. This movie stars some of the most beautiful Bond girls of all time and also some campy elements that were, of course, a little bit of a change or development from the Roger Moore campiness, but somewhere or the other, this movie is pretty underrated because it follows a very dark storyline and does not otherwise go the conventional way of a Bond movie. So this is on number 9 for me, Timothy Dalton's License to Kill. Number 8 on my list here I have is the most iconic and the first Roger Moore Bond movie called Live and Let Die. This is the most iconic Bond movie only when Roger Moore is concerned, because this was his first film and he tried to bring in a new shade of 007 that Sean Connery did not have, considering that he left the role after the 1971 movie Diamonds Are Forever, which is one of his least good Bond movies ever. This film follows the story of Bond trying to take on Kananga and how he meets this girl called Solitaire that basically guides him through everything, and the ending shows how he's blown and just burst into pieces, and he gives this strange one-liner, and again we see Baron Samedi on the train at the end. Again, a good movie, but of course has a lot of campy elements that did not age well. So this is on number 8 for me, Roger Moore's Live and Let Die. Number 7 here on my list is perhaps the most misunderstood Bond movie of all time, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, because this is the movie that had another actor playing James Bond instead of the regular Sean Connery, who did not choose to reprise his role in this one. And trust me, this is the only Bond movie that never really got the credit for what it was. Apart from License to Kill, this movie has a very, very dark ending, an ending that sticks to James Bond's character forever. And in almost every iteration that you see James Bond coming in, we always have this death of his wife being played in. Of course, George Lazenby is a very underrated Bond and perhaps the most underrated Bond for me. And this is number 7, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Number 6 here on my list I have is the Roger Moore Bond movie that came out in 1981 called For Your Eyes Only, which is of course the third time we see Roger Moore acing the Bond role. This is a film where Bond basically helps a girl take revenge from a guy who killed her parents for some device that got lost apparently. The Bond girl was beautiful, the stunts were beautiful, the ending was of course very well written, and trust me, this is one of the many Bond movies that sticks out as Roger Moore's actually good Bond movies. The rest of them like Moonraker, A View to a Kill, Octopussy, they're all crap and very, very cringy. Very, very cringy, trust me. This is number 6 for me, For Your Eyes Only, in the year 1981. Number 5 here on my list I have the Pierce Brosnan movie called Goldeneye, which was his first try as 007, and this movie proved to us that Bond can also be a 90s action hero apart from his regular Cold War image hero, something that was actually sticking with him for the last 3 decades. This movie stars Pierce Brosnan, Isabella Scorupco, Famke Janssen, and Sean Bean taking on some roles, important roles, of course. I'll not spoil the plot for you. This was a very, very good James Bond movie, which actually gave us Pierce Brosnan as a very cold and suave agent who could, do all the action at the same time and take the girl right from the nose of the villain. So this is number 5 for me with Pierce Brosnan's Goldeneye. Number 4 here on my list is another Pierce Brosnan Bond movie which pits our hero against a media mogul called Elliot Carver in the 1997 film Tomorrow Never Dies. This movie has Bond going to London, Germany, and even places like China, where he's supposed to take care of this media mogul who's trying to cause a war between China and the United Kingdom. Of course, this is the second time we see Bond role being played by Pierce Brosnan, and it was done really, really well. Trust me, this was a very, very good movie, but the next two movies were almost average to very, very bad. I'm talking about films like The World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day. This was a really good Bond movie from Pierce Brosnan, and this is number 4 for me, Tomorrow Never Dies. Up on number 3 in my list is the 1964 Bond movie called Goldfinger, which stars Sean Connery in the lead role and follows Bond trying to basically take on Auric Goldfinger, a man who is planning to completely destroy the American gold reserves, bombing it with an atomic bomb and trying to increase the value of his gold by essentially causing economic chaos in the West. A movie that was directed by Guy Hamilton and turned out to be one of the best ever Bond movies of all time. This film also had many great things going for it. The continuous montages of cute introducing Bond to the next level gadgets that he has, the beautiful Bond girls, the amazing locales, and especially the entire climatic part of the film is one thing that any cinegoer will marvel at. So this is number 3 for me, Guy Hamilton's Goldfinger starring Sean Connery, and the next movie in the list is another Sean Connery film that I'm getting to very soon. Number 2 up here on my list is perhaps one of the most beautifully shot Bond movies of all time with a very, very interesting production history called From Russia with Love. This is a movie that basically pits our 007 character against the Spectre organization and also trying to cause a war between Russia and the United Kingdom, all on the lines of a Lecter device and a beautiful Bond girl who apparently thinks that she's working for Mother Russia, only to understand that she's a pawn in this game. This movie is one of the most beautifully designed Bond films of all time, and perhaps the only Bond movie in the entire list which I had a really lot of time to basically find problems in. This is the only Bond movie that seemingly has no problem and is so cool on the surface. The casting, the characters, the entire setting of the movie, and the beautiful location that Istanbul is. This movie makes me marvel at the kind of craft that they had back in the year 1963. So this is on number 2 for me, Sean Connery's From Russia with Love. On the number 1 of my list, I have the perhaps world's first ever James Bond movie and one of the best James Bond movies ever is Dr.No. This is the movie that every Bond fan must at least watch once in his lifetime, because this is the movie that began it all, and this is the reason why James Bond films have been a 6-decade-long phenomenon. This is the movie that made James Bond into the iconic spy character that he is today, starring Sean Connery in the lead character for the first time. This is the movie that also cemented his reputation as Bond, and everybody inherently who's watched the James Bond movies also likes Sean Connery's Bond a lot because he's the first Bond. Come on, who cannot give him references? This movie is really awesome and every single Bond fan needs to watch it at least once in his lifetime. So this was the top 10 list of all the actors and all the movies here. I'll be doing another James Bond movies very soon and another list very soon. Till that time, guys, take care, stay safe, and please mention in the comment section below what you feel about the Bond movies. This is me, John Matthew, signing off. Take care and we'll come back soon.